GoDannar is one of my favorite animes of all time. I absolutely fucking love this show. And when I saw it, I had two thoughts. Number one, this thing needs to be in Super Robot Wars, and thankfully they did eventually make that happen. The other was, man, they should make a game based on this that would be like a Techromancer-style fighting game. That'd be fucking awesome, man. Astonishingly, such a thing exists. There is indeed a GoDannar fighting game on PS2, and it plays, I would say I'd best describe it as a combination of Techromancer and Rival Schools. You can move around the stage in 3D using up and down to move into and out of the background, even double tapping them to dash into and out of the background, which feels really interesting, but you remain locked onto your opponent. At the same time, though, you do your typical quarter circles and half circles to do special moves. And you use the X button to jump, something that would normally feel really awkward. I mean, any 2D fighter that features a friggin' jump button just feels bizarre because we're so used to up being jump. But for some strange reason, it feels perfectly natural here. The game has 3 attack buttons, weak, medium, strong. You can press them repeatedly to do short combos, and you can chain them to go together magic system style. So weak, 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 medium, 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 strong, strong, strong usually results in a combo. Also, kind of bizarre choice is the fact that pressing down an attack button does a low attack, even though technically there's no crouching or blocking low in this game. You could still do sweeps. It's really weird because there's like sweep combos you can do with some of these mechs. I really love the way the animations work too, because they really closely mimic the style of the show. Like if you jump towards someone with the GoDannar, he does do the crazy spinning backflip thing that they actually do in the show. So it's really easy to bust out these super flashy, nice looking combos that really capture the look and feel of the show. I really think the game looks pretty great. The cell shading on the character models is a bit basic, but it works okay, especially considering they just pop up to go to scream and point and pose and stuff. But the way the mechs look is actually really, really particular, because they're all super friggin' shiny. Like, I almost want to call it shine shading, because they're so fucking sparkly. This game is way better than I expected. Phenomenally good, to the point where I actually started looking all over the case trying to figure out who stealth devved this game, because I refuse to believe that just Ban Presto made it. Friggin' in-house Bandai. This was pre-Namco merger, but no. It was Ban Presto. It was in-house Bandai that somehow managed to throw together an actually really, really good fighting game. I mean, it's not something you could play competitively, obviously. I can guarantee you the mechs are not balanced, and there's also the fact that you can interact with the stages, you can pick up and throw things, and you can knock your opponents into exploding objects and stuff, and that could very easily break the game. And then there's the very GoDannar-centric subsystems they put in there. Like, they have this synchronization meter. If you're piloting a mech that has 2 pilots, there's a synchronization meter with these 2 bars that wave up and down. And if you do a special move at the point where the bars intersect, it will instantly turn into an EX move. So you kind of just randomly do EX moves based on the emotions of the pilots, which would not work in a competitive setting at all. But it's very, very GoDannar. The other one is the Soul Drive. If you lose with a full super meter, then your co-pilot will give you a pep talk, and you'll, like, come back with this raging fire background and glowing eyes, and then for a limited amount of time, you do extra damage and have super armor, so you don't react to getting hit. But every time you get hit, it drains your soul drive, and the soul drive is gradually draining, and when it runs out, you instantly lose. Which, again, wouldn't work in a competitive setting, but is very, very much a GoDannarism. There's also the fact that, weirdly, the game is only 1 round. The matches end way too fast. I didn't notice a 2-round option anywhere in there. Actually, speaking of weird things that are omitted, there's no training mode in the game, which is odd. The game does, however, have a story mode, and the game came out between Seasons 1 and Season 2. As such, when you play through the story mode, you get to Season 2, they actually do things that don't happen in the show, and in some cases they outright say couldn't happen in the show to help mislead you and not spoil the way the series turns out, which is a very GoDannar thing. One of the things I love about this show is the way that it's completely cliche and predictable, except they give you they foreshadow one cliche plot twist, so you wind up expecting it, so when they go with a different cliche plot twist, you don't see it coming. It's a really weird thing they do, and that's exactly what they're doing in the game. They're going with some cliche plot twists they've been foreshadowing, but don't actually come true, and I think that's actually relatively clever. Once you beat the Go and Anna storyline, you unlock the Lou and Ken storyline, so you can see what was going on throughout the series from Lou and Ken's eyes, which I thought was really neat. There's also a mini-robot battle mode, which mimics the whole soccer match at the beginning of the series, where whoever beats Anna gets to date her. It's a stupid survival mode where you use the training mini-robos, which, on that note, the mini-robos are actually a selectable character and can fight the big robots. And there's also a secret mode where you can play as all the girls in gym clothes piloting mini-robos, which I thought was, well, that's a very GoDannar thing as well. The big thing to me, though, that I really love is there's a 2-on-2 co-op mode where you play a team of 2 and you're fighting a team of 2, which actually brings us to the game's flaws. The number one flaw with this game is actually the way the 2-on-2 mode works. You see, you're targeting a specific robot, right? You use L1 to switch targets, but for some reason, you cannot switch targets if you can't move. Like, if you get knocked down, if you're in the middle of getting hit, you can't switch targets, which is annoying, because that's the time when I most want to switch targets, because I'm usually being ambushed by whoever I'm not targeting, and I'm like, I want to switch my target to them, I want to switch my target to them, oh, I can't move, so it's not letting me. Game's biggest flaw. The other big flaw, it's only 2-player. No multi-tap support. Even though there's a 2-on-2 mode, you can't play the game 2-on-2. It is 2-player only, which is weird. There's also, as I mentioned, no training mode. There's also no gallery mode. Like, they've made 3D models of all the characters. There's even a model viewer you see during the end credits, but you can never access those models or view images or anything like that, which is just a weird omission. And, like, my last legit complaint is the fact that the GoDannar doesn't have all of his moves from the show. They basically just pulled moves out of their ass for the GoDannar, which disappoints me. I really like that mech design. So it's kind of a shame that I can't do the horn rod and the long horn shoot and stuff like that. Just weird that that's the one they screwed up. I could also complain about the fact that there's a lot of very samey mechs, like they have 2 different Neo Oxars with the same pilot, and then the Go Oxar with the, which only play slightly differently. It's basically the Neo Oxar except better, so why would you ever play the Neo Oxar when you can play the Go Oxar? There's a lot of stuff like that. There's some very samey robots. They could have put more in there. Like, I would have liked to use Club Mariner. I would have liked to actually see Celeblator fucking do something. I would have liked the freaking Tiger Mech from the last episode, but okay, that's one that I understand them not putting in there. I also would have liked non-slave unit Volspina. Would have been really neat. But all that said, they do have all the different countries mechs. Volspina, Genesister, Dragliner, and GoDannar are all in there. They have the mini-robos. They have GoDannar. They have the Oxars. They have Core Gunner and G-Gunner. So they have all the stuff that they should have. It's just a great game. Like, if you like GoDannar, if you're a fan of the show, I highly recommend tracking this game down. It is well worth it. Fun-ass game, surprisingly good fighting game. And if you're unfamiliar with GoDannar, but you're a fan of Techromancer and giant robot fighting games and whatnot, then I highly recommend both the series and the game. As long as you don't mind fan service, there's a lot of fan service in GoDannar. But that aside, great fucking show. Great game. It's the kind of thing that actually makes you kind of sad they didn't bring it to America, which, funny story, they kind of did, sort of, as Battle Assault 3 featuring Gundam Seed. Yes, it seems that when Banpresto realized they made a good-ass fighting game engine, and then the game they used it on was based on a show that no one fucking watched. Seriously, GoDannar was not particularly successful in Japan. I don't think this game sold very well. They promptly then used the engine and reskinned it with Gundams, so that way it could actually sell. Now, admittedly, both GoDannar and Battle Assault 3 came out the exact same year, so it's hard to tell which one actually came first. That's purely conjecture. But I have reason to believe the GoDannar game came first. They could have been developed at the same time, for all I know. But I think the GoDannar game came first because the engine just works better for GoDannar, and the GoDannar game seems more polished but has less content, if that makes sense. This is probably where you're going, but wait, didn't Battle Assault 3 featuring Gundam Seed completely suck? Well, kind of. Mostly because it's not Battle Assault, and it is Gundam Seed. Let me explain. When people hear Gundam Battle Assault, they expect this. They expect Marvel vs. Capcom with Gundams. They don't expect, well, whatever the heck this is. What's more, Battle Assault was a crazy crossover Gundam fighter. It had G Gundam, it had Gundam Wing, it had Universal Century stuff. It was super great. Battle Assault 3 featuring Gundam Seed was basically all Gundam Seed, except you could get 2 from G and 2 from Wing after you beat the game. Woo. Yeah, and Gundam Seed wasn't really that popular in America, and what's more, Gundam Seed isn't really about close-range combat. That is very much about ranged combat, and this does affect the game because they decided to replace the weak attack button with a shoot button, which very much changes how the game plays, but at the same time, very much limits the amount of attack options and how good the close-range combat is. Actually giving Battle Assault 3 a second chance, realizing that it's a reskinned GoDannar game, it's actually a lot better. Like, it's not a bad fighter at all. And I actually would kind of recommend that if you like giant robot fighting games, or might actually be a fan of Gundam Seed, if that's possible, then, yeah, go ahead and give Battle Assault 3 a second chance. Once you realize, oh, wait, it isn't really Battle Assault, it's a reskinned GoDannar game, and you judge it based on its own merits, it actually isn't so bad. But the GoDannar game is a lot better. Just the mechs are much more suited to the engine. It's just very clear to me that this was how that engine was designed to be used. It's great. It's just a surprisingly good fighting game because it perfectly mimics the style of the show. It feels unique with its 3D movement, yet familiar with its inputs. It's a unique but familiar fighting game. It hits that middle ground. It's just astonishingly good. Again, don't expect to play this competitively. You're not going to see it at EVO. But if you like giant robots fighting, GoDannar wound up being really good, and it might actually be worth tracking down. Anyway, this is Jell, and I hope you've enjoyed this look at my game archives. See ya.